All right, we're back with another version of the Roundtable. And as always, we got another great panel in store for you guys. And vivo, we got Manny from
Wepa.
the And Vivo podcast.
Saludo.
And we have Big Dog Lukey. And after a long, long hiatus, I haven't seen this man in a long, long time. One of the funniest men on the internet today.
Oh no.
Scott Hale from Hailstorm Sports, man. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. So let's jump right in, man. The big fight this past weekend, shocker, Chris Eubank Jr. getting stopped by Liam Smith. And a lot of people are asking, man, is Chris Eubank Jr. done as a fighter? Now, when I say done as a fighter, I mean, can he compete at the top level ever again? Did he get found out really badly in this fight? Because we know he could still make money in the sport. This rematch would be a blockbuster, and you could still do the Conor Benn fight as well. So this guy still has money fights out there for him. But the question I want to ask everybody on the panel is, can he ever? We don't even know if he had that top level, but can he ever fight a guy like Golovkin moving forward? We'll start with you, Manny. Is he done?
I mean, he's not done. He's going to fight again, but he's going to have to be strategic in who he's going to be his next opponent. I really, if I was, and his father said it at one point when Conor Benn was kind of almost getting finalized. And he said, "My son can't go down like that. It's gonna, it's gonna take a while to, a lot for dehydration, and then everything's gonna change. I mean, he's not gonna be as strong as he is right now. If he goes down at that too low of the weight class. But honestly, could they be a rematch? Possibly, probably, and that could be the next step for him. I don't know what happened to him. I have no idea. I mean, I was very disappointed. It's not that I didn't see a chance of Liam Smith winning this fight. I just thought that Eubank was a lot better, a lot stronger, and has better potential to possibly make it into a title shot eventually. And this just didn't happen for him. So we got a much better Liam Smith. He took advantage of the weaknesses of Chris Eubank, and he capitalized on some of the mistakes Eubank made. Through the entire fight. So it wasn't really him. And I think right now he just needs to sit down, get back to the drawing board, forget about opponents, and work on some of those things you need to possibly get a rematch. I'd love to see a rematch, to be honest. But Conor Benn, I would scratch that out. I think Conor Benn will kill him. And Golovkin, hey, that could be another possibility, because you know what? Golovkin's already up in age after the Canelo loss. He's probably looking for something else. And is it Chris Eubank, that person who Golovkin may want? It could be a possibility. Who knows? He's not done, though.
Well, let me ask you this, Manny. Do you think because of that camp that he had to go through with Conor Benn, having to get down to the 157, now, again, that fight got scrapped in the 13th hour, so he went through that full camp.
Right.
Do you think that had any effect on him going into this fight? Is that possible?
I believe so. Because remember, you're training to go to a lower weight class, and you got to cut yourself in certain things when it comes to your diet. The amount of a training that you have to go through it to make sure, first of all, you got to make that weight, and then after that, you got to come back and hydrate. So all of a sudden, you lose away that game plan that you had for Conor Benn. And now did you really went out there and just did whatever afterwards? Or did you really took care of yourself? Did you ballooned up like he actually did real quickly? Those are things that your body are not going to adjust quickly enough. Look at Canelo. Canelo went vegetarian for the Bivol fight. Is that something that after you're consuming, different kind of meals, and you go to a different style of a meal and you go vegetarian, not having that real protein that you're accustomed to do it? Was that actually what happened? And I think Chris Eubank, I think that really took a toll on him, and I like to see a much better Chris Eubank fighting Liam Smith ahead of the game, training just for him, not being diverted into something else, and then all of a sudden you got a new opponent.
Scott, now, again, let me kind of unpack this a little bit more. When I say done as a fighter, this is a guy that his whole image was based off of confidence, right? I've never been knocked down in a fight. I've never even been buckled or buzzed. But he was buckled, buzzed, and knocked down. All those things happened in this fight. So is the persona shattered? Can he come back mentally, physically from this?
I mean, that's the one thing none of us know. And honestly, I don't think he knows either. And I think that's what makes boxing fans ultimately drawn to the sport, right? Because it's like in basketball, baseball, football. I mean, there's so many games. So, like, you can, dude, baseball is 162 games, right? You can have a bad stretch and no one even cares, right? But in boxing, literally every single fight, every single round matters. And to your point, his machismo was like his whole thing, right? I think what's fascinating, kind of to Manny's point, is his footwork was sloppy. Now, keep in mind, I am the casual fan, right? So I used to watch 100 fights a year. Now I'm down to probably 15 or so. And watching this fight, I'd only seen him fight one other time, but I had heard all the hype and the buzz. And I was surprised. Like, he was getting wide. He was over punching. And I'm sitting there like, he's leaving a lot of openings, right? So I think, to me, he needs to get back into actual fundamentals. And to the whole point of, did he go to camp or was he cutting weight? Because those are obviously, as you guys know, two completely different things, right? Did he spend 6 to 7 weeks focused on a singular opponent, or was he the entire time, watching his food, watching the scale? To me, he didn't look prepared for that fight. So whether he was just arrogant, dude, we don't know, right? I think the thing that's fascinating is, though, with the whole trying to say there was an elbow that hit him. Dude, I watched the replay like I'm sure you guys did. Man, there wasn't that, like, okay, yeah, maybe a glance, but no, he was getting caught clean. And like, that's what I'm saying is when you watch a fight, it's like the dude landing the cleaner punches, like right away, I was like, damn, okay, he's getting hit flush, And again, I haven't watched him a ton of times. I've heard the hype. I've heard him talk. I watched his press conferences. I was shocked at how flush he was getting hit, right? And so I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And then before you knew it, it's like those went from, oh, man, it's not hurting me, to, oh, shit, I'm stunned, to, oh, shit, I'm out. Oh, shit, it was an elbow, right? So
we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that after.
Yeah. So, yeah. But to me, I don't think he should take an immediate rematch. And I would think, like, he's probably thinking, like, okay, he wants to get his manhood back. Again, I think he needs to be honest with himself, right? Saying that an elbow hurt you is not being honest. He needs to look at the openings and how wide he was, his lead foot getting too far away from his body. Like, those are things I was seeing. And again, I'm the casual fan. So you have to know that his opponent's corner was seeing all that. So I think he should take a couple winnable fights, to Manny's point, focus on him, right? Then after that, then see if you can get your heart back.
No, it's funny that you say that he should probably take some fights in between, because he talked about the rematch clause and he said, whether it's next or down the road, we're going to get that fight. So he implied that there is a possibility it may not be right away. Lukey, should he take the rematch right away? Do you think he'll be okay, or do you think he does need to rebuild after this?
Well, I don't think his career is over, because I don't think it ever started. I think that this is Chavez Jr. in the modern era.
Correct.
It's someone that had a lot of physical traits, a lot of gifts, a lot of personality, and a famous father, but never quite could win the big fight. He beat James DeGale, but that was the DeGale that's at the very end of his career. He's lacked his ability to win these defining fights. And this fight, to me, felt like when Fonfara beat Chavez Jr. Because that really felt like when Chavez Jr. lost to Fonfara, he could never become the same guy. And I think that what I saw on this night was Chris Eubank, the volume in his fights has always bothered me. 380 punches thrown by a super middleweight in a 12-round fight is not enough to get it done at a high level unless you have extreme power.
Extreme power.
He to me now has to ask himself some questions about how much he wants to be a fighter, because his road has been very hand selected to be the best road. And yet, even with this hand selected road, he's met a lot of adversity. There are a lot of other fighters, because if you think about it, it's supposed to be his division and Jaime Munguia's division right now. The middleweight division's terrible because these guys aren't stepping up in competition. So I think, honestly, I don't think Eubank comes back from this, to be honest. I think this is a turning point where his career is forever derailed.
Like I said, the rematch will be huge. It'll be a lot of money. He'll get paid. But he could get hurt again. So
Absolutely.
and that could be the end of it. So that's the thing.
Well, I think he's going to get brought in to lose to people, Beep.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the scary part is he's such a marquee name. He's such a celebrity. He's going to have 3 to 4 years coming in and fighting Janibek, fighting Errol Spence if he's at middleweight, fighting Xander Zayas. Like, there's a whole era of him losing to guys. And I think that's what gets scary.
Hey, there's nothing better than a famous gatekeeper, right? And it's like, I mean, because you think about it, most of those guys are guys that have been to the top and then they're on their way down and people know the name. He's even better, right? Because he literally has a name, to Lukey's point, that is a lot based off of his dad. So then now, if he's a draw with the name, oh yeah, and that's food.
I mean, I say this respectfully, he could be like Derek Chisora, man. Like, this guy was getting paid millions of dollars to take L's, right? This guy, he makes the most money I've ever seen with a guy that has over, like, what's he have, like 11, 12 losses or something like that?
13, something.
Yeah, man. And this dude's making million. He just made like $4 million his last fight. This guy got like 13 losses. So I tell you, man.
The question is if he's really going to take that role because of the ego.
Yeah, the ego.
Is he really going to do that?
Good point, Manny. It's a good point.
Or is he really going to go the route Elislandy Lara? Can he beat him? Absolutely, I think he can. But is that something that people really want to see? You're going to take advantage of someone that, it's been there and just only kind of, has a great boxing skills, but doesn't have that big power, and doesn't have like Big Doc said, just doesn't have that, arsenals of punches to go through 400, 500 punches in one fight. Even Elislandy Lara can actually outbox him, with his skills. So who knows? I mean, it's just, but he's not going to take that role. Okay.
I think he's just going to get beat up in the UK. Like, he's just going to fight really famous people in the UK, and maybe he'll win a fight. But I think he's going to be just a UK famous guy.
Yeah. Well, he pretty much is like a UK.
He's
like a reality television star, basically. But Scott mentioned it, and I'm going to jump right into this topic here. Now, my partner, Eric, always calls me the conspiracy theorist. He says, Phoebe, you're an idiot. You believe in all these conspiracies. But I'm just going to say this. I did go back and watch it. Now, obviously, I will concede, and I do feel that the uppercut was the punch that did the majority of the damage. It stunned Eubank Jr., made him fall into the ropes. It buzzed him, right? But that uppercut landed, like I would say, like right around the nose or mouth area, right around this area here, nose, mouth, chin type area. That's where it looked like it landed. Now, Eubank did have that little lump on the eye, like right under here near the temple area. Now, it did look like the elbow did land, or elbow or forearm did land in that area, right? So we don't know for sure if it did have any effect. But one thing what I can say is usually when you do get hit in that type of area, your legs kind of go. We saw when Roy Jones got hit in the temple from Glenn Johnson. And there was another fight there. Lebedev hit him in that same area, and those legs just went, right? So I guess the big question is, if that elbow or forearm, if you believe it landed, some people don't believe it landed, some people do believe it landed. I do believe it landed, and I do believe it caused the mouse. But I can't say with 100% certainty that was why he got knocked out. I can't. But I am a little bit curious if that possibly did have some type of effect on his legs when he got up. And I do believe that it did cause the lump on the eye. And he's even saying there's rumors that he wants to appeal the knockout. Roy Jones Jr. responded on Instagram to Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn was saying, Roy Jones Jr. ruined him or whatever, and then Roy Jones brought up the elbow as well. So I'm kind of in between here. If that, I do believe the elbow landed. I do believe it caused that lump on the eye, but I'm not 100% sure that was the finisher of the fight. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It makes me think a little bit. I am a little bit curious. I am kind of in between on that. So we'll start with you, Scott. We'll go right to you guys. You mentioned it. What do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think that landed? Do you think it had any effect? Or and I will add to this as well. I do think that was unintentional. I just think that was him throwing the hook and, the follow through. We've seen that happen before. A lot of times that does happen. If a guy, leans and smothers you while you're throwing it, you'll throw the hook when the guy's here and he may be here, and that's why that elbow come in. But so what are your thoughts on the whole elbow thing? We'll call it elbow gate.
Elbow gate. Well, first of all, D-Style doesn't believe in anything outside of like bad 70s posters. So So I'm way closer to you on that. I obviously would never want to insult a fighter, seeing as how I am not a fighter, and say like, it had no effect. But I did watch it back, specifically that part, trying to see it. And I was like, you can see it hit. It didn't, to your point, look intentional. And the only way that I would think it would be intentional is if, certain fighters have a history, we all know the guys that do headbutts all the time and all this other shit, right? So I didn't think it was intentional, and I didn't think there was a whole lot of weight on it either. And if there was no other punches that landed flush, like right around the same time that clearly hurt him, I would see his case. But to your point, the uppercut rocked his entire neck, right? And so I was like, did it do 10%, 15%? That's the part I don't know. Like I said, though, I think bigger picture, the only way to get over a loss is by accepting it, right? And the only way to get better from a loss is realizing that you're human and you have to fix the things that led to you losing in the first place. From this frivolous complaint, to me, it sounds like he isn't doing any of that stuff, right? And so, I can't say that he's full of shit. At the same time, it just sounds like a weak excuse to me, honestly. Yeah. He was dominated.
Yeah. And to add to the point, even if it did land and maybe it did have some type of effect, at the end of the day, just kind of accept the loss and move on and then try to get the rematch and don't put yourself in a situation where that could happen again. You fell forward, and that was,
it was his footwork.
Yeah. He fell, like you said, Scott, he's got bad footwork and his bad balance. His bad balance as a result of that footwork had him fall forward, and that's why the hook started when he was out here, and because he fell forward, the hook was kind of smothered.
Right. So you could even argue that he's the one that led. He's the one that led to the elbow. So now it's So even if it did do a lot of damage, it was your fault.
I'm 100% certain that Liam Smith didn't plan to do that, or that was intentional in any way. Lukey, what are your thoughts on this whole thing?
I'm going to quote the legendary coach from my area, Carl Sharrock, where when we'd go to tournaments or a fight, he'd say, doesn't really matter what I say tonight because you got to fight the fight and you're going to decide if you win or lose. Because at this point, whatever's done is done. And if you trained hard, you trained hard. And I feel like in this situation, Chris Eubank Jr. needs to blame his defense. Because whether it was an elbow or not, stuff happens in a fight. And this is the reason why you focus on defensive drills. This is the reason you focus on distance gauging, is guys can land fouls. Things can happen. And even if they're intentional or they're not, you have to be prepared for this. So I think what Scott said is perfectly right. What we're hearing from Eubank Jr. is denying the truth, not being accountable. And what is that going to do? That's going to keep him exactly doing the same things that got him knocked out in this fight, as opposed to improving and possibly becoming the better fighter that he could be.
Gotcha. Manny, does Chris Eubank Jr. have any type of argument here? And do you think this possible appeal will hold any weight?
I don't think it shouldn't. I think he's just probably, like you guys have commented, that he's just looking for a way to justify his loss, and the loss that it's going to be a memorable one for the rest of his life. It's his first knockout. You know what I mean? But if you look at Eubank when he started the first round, he started great. He started establishing his jab, and that was his game plan. In my eyes, when I looked at the fight, it's like, he needs to keep Liam Smith in the outside eventually. He's gonna start to take the risk, and this is where Liam's gonna get better, right? As the Liam started to get a little bit closer and closer, the jab wasn't functioning well. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna start throwing hooks. This is where Liam started to capitalize, and he's great at it, right? So yes, things can definitely happen when you when you feel you have opportunities. I think when Liam just threw that punch, just kind of went through and slided through it, that it hit him. It did. But I don't think it's an argument like like a Mike Tyson kind of thing, like a Holyfield, that when used to punch, they would go like that, right? And it was very obvious. So I don't think that's the case here. I think it's just a matter of like, what can I do? What can I say to the public from all the trash talk and everything that I've said? I walked the walk, but I didn't talk. I talked the talk, but I didn't walk the walk. And I am embarrassed in front of these people. Liam Smith, like he would like completely like when this fight was announced, he was like, this is a tune-up fight, basically. No. You're wrong. And he proved it that night. And he was the much better fighter. For you to come out here and say that, hey, he was cheating and he did it on purpose. It wasn't.
That's bullshit. So,
I mean, he lost to a dude named Beefy, right? I mean, at the end of the day, he got slept by a dude named Beefy.
Exactly.
That's right.
But
that's right.
I mean, man, that's the beauty of the sport, though.
Yep.
Like,
dude, we love upsets. I mean, that was
upsets, man.
That just kind of
watch you guys get humbled.
Yeah, that upset the apple cart, man, because everyone was talking about Eubank Golovkin, Eubank Conor Ben. Can we make that?
Janneberg.
But Liam Smith hit the lottery ticket, man, last Saturday. So the big question is, where does he go from here, man? Because he could fight Conor Ben next, right? They could go to he can go down to 154. He's talking about Golovkin. I'm not crazy about that fight for him. I know Cal Brooks been mentioned. What do you guys think he should do next? I would like to see the rematch with Chris Eubank Jr. because I think that's a huge money fight. Lukey, what do you think, man? You think that that rematch should happen, or do you think maybe Cal Brook? What do you think is going to be next for Liam Smith, and when would you like to see him fight next?
Well, I think there's two trajectories, right? Sorry, I got froggy there for a second, but Liam Smith could go two different ways. He could be fighter of the year trajectory, where he goes for legacy and tries, because with this win, he could be the fighter of the year because guys just don't fight enough. He knocks out 3 wins and one more good win. He's the fighter of the year to anyone who has a brain. The other way is he could fight the people that'll get him paid the most. I like him at 154 if he can still make that weight, because I still think that that's his optimum weight. I mean, I'm not opposed to if Munguia could make 160 to a Munguia rematch because of that. I think he has to do the Eubank Jr. rematch or a Conor Ben fight just because that's so much money. Like those are the fights to make. And then from there, he'll get an opportunity. But I just think for Liam Smith, what I learned from this was his professional losses, decision losses to very good fighters in Munguia and Canelo, that matters when guys don't fight guys at that level. So even if you lose to those guys, you go 12 rounds, there's something to be said for being in those fights and taking it on, because I think the observation I got from Liam Smith was he learned from Canelo. You know how people always talk about like Canelo learned from Floyd? We never say that about any other fighter, though. That's like the only time we say a fighter learned from a fighter. I think Liam Smith learned a little bit about pressure fighting from what Canelo did back to him. So I saw a lot of kind of the Canelo, a baby version of Canelo's tactics. So I'd like to see Liam Smith try to assert himself, long-winded answer, as the modern great British answer and be a fringe Hall of Famer. Finish out strong.
Yeah. Hale, do you think that he should just jump right back into the rematch of Eubank Jr.? Do you think they should really try to make that one? And I don't know. It just seems like it would be a blockbuster, that rematch, because now you have controversy. You have he becomes more legitimized because he scored the knockout. It's not this mismatch like it was before. Then you got the elbow gate. So, I mean, what do you think, man?
Yeah. If I was Beefy, I would definitely do the rematch for a couple of reasons, but really, really fast. Luke, you brought up a great point. Like, in a past lifetime, I used to work in the fight game, and the thing that blew me away was working small fights to big fights, right? And like, I mean, that's obvious stuff, but like, not even the fight itself, but like the weekend, the media days, like, you know, when these guys land in Vegas on Tuesday and they walk in the lobby and they're blown away, you know what I mean? Like, think of just the mental stamina it takes to not be exhausted by the weigh-in, right? So he fought the biggest name in the sport already. So to me, like, that experience, I feel like he could handle the build up and trash talk and be mentally ready. And if I was him, I would try to do the rematch before fighting Ben. because I think he loses the fight to Ben, and I think the rematch he would have a much better shot. And not only that, that would only make the Ben fight bigger, and then he could probably make more money. Probably what? Like, I mean, if you space it out properly, he could probably do that like the top of next year, right? So now it's like he's not only helped his pocketbook, but to Lukey's point, he could be fighter of the year. Now he's changing his legacy. Now he's changing his narrative. And dude, I mean, these guys are trading like years of their lives in the ring. So you got to maximize it every time you fight. So if I was him, I would try to get the rematch. What is this? Basically February. I mean, they could do it in July-ish, right? You know, do it around then. Maybe take a softer fight at the end of the year. So now he gets 3. You know, now he's 3-0 in the year. He's fighter of the year, and then fight Ben next spring. So now he's maximizing his marketability, but at the same time, he's fighting a guy that he knows he can beat. To me, in the rematch, he'd have all the confidence in the world because, again, he's fought guys that are far better, and this wasn't like a close fight that went late and, you know, like something happened. Dude, he was from middle of the second round on, he was dominating this fight, and like this was his fight, and I have no reason to think that he wouldn't pick up where he left off next time. So, yeah, man, if I was him, I would definitely try to fight the rematch in the next I'd say 92 or you know, next 3 to 4 months probably.
Gotcha. See, it's kind of odd. I think, Manny, you said this as well as Scott. You both you guys think that Conor Benn would beat Liam Smith right now? You would pick Conor Benn?
I can't really look at that right now. I think Conor Benn needs to really settle his stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
If he's good with all this PED and all that crap going on through. So, is he the stronger guy? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just think about this. Conor Benn was considered, you know, top 3 at the 147. You know, when it comes to contenders,
I see what you're
not
saying,
champions. So you got Virgil, Boots, and Conor was third.
Yeah, he was in the mix.
He couldn't get any of there, so decides to go up and do something different. Fight Chris Eubank, maybe test that 150 and see what happens, or who knows, afterward with that fight. So he still got it. You know what I mean? And I think Liam Smith, because of his experience, and I love the way Lukey mentioned it, his experience. Someone told me Liam Smith will lose against Eubank, and I say, how sure are you? Oh, he lost 3 times. Did you know who he lost to? Canelo, Jaime, and Magomed. These are top 3 guys right now. Even though Magomed is 27 years old, he's still undefeated. I don't know why we won't see him fighting.
He should have won that fight. I had him winning that fight.
That's what I was gonna say. Beeb, he won that fight. People didn't go back and watch it.
I think he won that fight.
When you look at this thing, and to answer one of your questions, what he should do next? Listen, he was already a world champion. Are you trying to capture a two division champion, or are you trying to settle yourself for retirement?
Yeah.
So the next thing that you need to do right now, unless there is almost equal amount of same money, fighting Golovkin, fighting Janibek or whoever, even Charlo, which I doubt that happened. I think the best bet right now for him is take that immediate rematch.
Yeah.
Because still Chris Eubank is attractive. He's still going to get paid. Both of them are going to get paid. And if he beats them again convincingly, that, you know what, it wasn't just a luck of a draw. And I'm sure Eubank was going to say, yeah, it was that elbow that got me. But anyway, follow the money. Follow the money. You're already a champion. No one's going to take that away from you. Did you make a lot of money doing it? Negative. Just go out there and get money, man. Make it interesting.
Yeah. And like I said, I think that's a no-brainer. And at this stage, if I'm managing him, because he's getting up there in age too, and he's been in some tough fights. And again, he's already been world champion, right? Is he really a middleweight? Can he compete with these guys at 160? That's a big ask, in my opinion. The Munguia fight, yeah, it's okay, but it's another tough uphill battle. If you can make much more money fighting a guy like Eubank Jr. again, and if you could even lure, I know they talked about the Kell Brook fight. That would be another, domestic fight between these two, UK legends, like two big guys that everyone loves in the UK. You heard the crowd cheering for him on Saturday. Like, he's got a following over there, and so does Kell Brook, and especially Kell Brook coming off that con. That would be another big fight that I would try to make if that Eubank fight could not get made. I would keep him away from Golovkin. I know everyone thinks Golovkin's old, he's done, but this dude can still punch. He can still hurt people.
He's committed to the sport. There's no one else more committed to the sport. Well, I could say Amanda Serrano, but in the male side of it, it's Golovkin. But one thing I want to say, man, and it's funny to me, is like a lot of people talk about, and I hear this a lot throughout social media. A lot of people talking about Jaime Munguia, how he's been very protective, and he has been, right? So this fight's looking pretty good now for Munguia, because now he's like, yeah, I beat someone good. You know what I mean? So anyway, I just find that funny.
Yeah. And the thing with Munguia though too is there'd be no title for him. He'd probably be the B side going in, and I don't think he'd have to probably go to the UK to do it. I mean, I would probably go a different route if I was him.
And he's at 165, Beeb. We don't even know if he's coming back.
Yeah, he may not come back. He may go to 168.
He may
go
168. He'll probably be 168.
Yeah, so he probably won't come back down to 160. So
he can't.
Yeah, so
I don't know why. I think he would do great in 160, but I just don't think he'll.
Yeah, he's a big dude, man. He's big. He's a big dude.
I do hope that Golden Boy picks up Edgar Berlanga, and then somehow
that'll be a good fight between him and Munguia.
Make them both two of them.
What a great fight!
It'll be a real good fight. It'll be a sellout crowd. Mexican, Puerto Rican over there at Madison Square Garden, and Golden Boy can make some money more than what Top Rank did with them. So, but we'll see.
Got another big fight coming up this weekend, and I got to be honest, man, and I hate being, and I apologize if I offend anyone, because I'm not trying to be disrespectful here, but to me, this fight is a monumental mismatch, and I'm actually worried. I'm generally concerned for Anthony Yarde going into this fight with Artur Beterbiev. He's a plus 500. I'd make him a plus 800, man. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. This is just how highly I think of Artur Beterbiev, how dangerous he is. And Lukey, we talked about how the skill is very underrated. The little things he does, the little nuances to his game. This guy can fight as well as punch, right? I think on paper this is a mismatch, and I mean that with all due respect to Anthony Yarde. Am I wrong here? Manny, am I wrong at all here? Is there
you're not
any
wrong.
light, any
Nothing.
Ray of hope, any
Nothing.
light at the end of the tunnel for Anthony Yarde? Does anyone think outside of Anthony Yarde's immediate family, can he win this fight?
No, he cannot. Listen, one thing that Beterbiev started doing in the last 3 fights is to start faster. He's a slow starter, and when you look at Marcus Brown and he fought a little bit faster. I think that's the one he got the big cut on it, so it slowed him down. But look at Joe Smith, man. Look at that fight. I mean, he came in brutally just to, he just came in to just shut that down. Let me just pay for a couple of rounds and let me get out of here. With his age and the commitment he's got, and now for a possible future undisputed, fight that he can actually get. I mean, it doesn't get any better. And if you think about it, when you call it tune-up, and I hope I'm not wrong. And if it happens, well, it is what it is. A lot of people are going to make money if they bet on Yarde. But there's no match for him. Not at all. I mean, Beterbiev is the cookie monster, the boogeyman, the freaking beast at 168 pounds right now. I just don't think no one can beat this guy. Not even Bivol can beat this guy. Even Caleb Smith, as he's looking pretty sharp. Well, actually, Smith moved on. I'm sorry about that. But no one can actually really take up on at this moment at the 160 at the 175.
Yes, 175.
So, I mean, what's the point? Why was this fight made like that? They couldn't find anyone else? And also keep in mind that 175 is not that really competitive right now. So it's just dominated by 2 boxers. Reality is we want to be able to see the undisputed. I guess undisputed is now the era right now. We got a lot of divisions who were going to be undisputed last year and this year also as well. But the reality is we're going to end up seeing Bivol and Canelo rematch. A lot of people say, man, are you crazy? Ain't going to happen. Listen, Canelo wants what he wants, and he's going to get it. He's the cash cow in the sport. And he's not going to it's not going to leave things like that. He wants to settle and come back down to my division. I'll give you undisputed status as well. So that's going to happen. Afterwards, we'll see what happens. But I just don't think even Canelo can go up 175 and beat Beterbiev. It's just, that's it. The guy's going to retire the way it is. Champion, maybe undisputed, who knows? And no one can touch this guy. I mean, he's 30 years old of age, and he still acts like a teenager. Crazy.
Yeah. Scott, no one likes upsets more than you and I.
Yeah.
Is there any value in Anthony Yarde this Saturday, bro?
Absolutely not. I mean, a dude with braids that bad has no shot going into this fight, man. I mean, obviously there's, fights that you do to stay busy or whatever, but like, this is such a walkover fight. I mean, I'm with Manny a little bit. Like, part of me wonders why it was even made, I mean, I've thought that in the past though, but like, not like this. I actually saw one of my guys, Smitty, send me one of Yarde's fights like about a week and a half ago. He's like, you got to see this guy. I was like, all right. So I'm thinking I'm like, see him good, like, oh yeah, you got to see this guy. I'm like, all right, yeah, let me check. And I'm like, oh, okay, who is he? Because like, I mean, it was boring as hell, whatever. He's like, oh, he's about to get killed in 2 weeks. And that's when I started looking up the odds. I was like, oh, maybe I'll bet on it. And I was like, yeah, dude, like this is a nothing fight. But I mean, obviously, you can always say, there's a 1 in a million chance, but I wouldn't even think that there's 1 in a million chance. I mean, you'd have to probably legitimately bet, like we were discussing earlier, $5,000 to maybe make 500. And I mean, seriously, man. I mean, if this goes 4 to 5 rounds, I'd be shocked, honestly.
Yeah. Lukey, what round does Yarde?
Whatever round Beterbiev wants to knock him out is when it's over, because there's that big of a gap. I was listening to my guy Calix Boxing today with D-Style, and they brought up a great point. Everyone loves the underdog. Everyone loves the Rocky story. Anthony Yarde talks really well. You see him, he gets off the bus and he looks buff. The problem is words don't win fights. And I'm going to make a Wet Bandits Home Alone, to quote JC. I was talking about this earlier, and JC was in the chat, and he said this. Anthony Yarde is going to see open windows and open doors in this fight. But Beterbiev is going to have water on the floor like in Home Alone, or things coming down through those windows. The openings Yarde will see are traps that are going to get him stopped. And the more aggressive he gets, the quicker this fight ends. And I think the only path to victory is Beterbiev has to have some physical injury coming into the fight, and he has to fight a mauling style that's the best fight of his life. And I think even then he's going to hit the canvas. Yarde has questionable punch resistance. He's not the fastest guy for a guy that you would want from this. And when he throws his jab, he does a lot of that bow and arrow stuff we hate. Throws it from here and then wings it out. I mean, there's just technical flaws that if you're fighting one of the 10 best fighters in the world, who are also on top of the skill set, Beterbiev is like a nuclear bomb. Very, very scientific, very well crafted, but devastating. And you can't have these flaws going in with this. I think that people are falling in love with the story, but not the reality.
Yeah.
Hey, actually, I'd take everything back. If Calix says this is an early knockout, then I guarantee it's going to distance.
Wow.
Calix is my guy, man. Yeah. Hopefully, Manny's watching. He's been
bald.
It's dude, Calix is my guy, man. He's been bald since literally like 98. But Manny, you mentioned something. So you think he's gonna fight Canelo again?
Bivol?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Heck yeah. That's gonna happen. Canelo is the type of guy with his ego that he's not gonna let this one slide by. And it's just a couple of things. He knew he made a mistake. He knew he made a mistake changing his diet. He knew he made a mistake in terms of like
wait.
How to be
which diet? The
veggie
meat diet?
Well, that's why he can't take meat, right? No taquitos this time. No, the vegetarian when he went vegetarian on that. So that really took a toll on him. I think that's really got him into. And I don't think he performed the way he normally does. But if you ask me, If I look at the Billy Joe Sanders fight, or if I look the Caleb Plant fight, those fights were a lot better than even Bivol and Golovkin. And Golovkin was just recently. So I don't know what's going on with him. Is that it? Did he peaked? And now
I think
he's
there's
just
some wear and tear,
down?
Manny. I think there's some wear and tear. I think there's a little bit of wear and tear from the schedule. I think he's had some knee. Yeah, he's had some knee problems in the past. I think the wrist was bothering him.
Right.
I don't want to make excuses for the guy, but I think that he beat up his body a lot. I think going through those training camps, fighting so many times in that short period of time. He basically said, I need a break, and that pretty much
is
speaks.
fair. But I mean, he's not going to get any taller. No, and that jab isn't going to get any worse. Right? I mean,
it's a bad style matchup for him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like
it's a tough style matchup.
I just think right now that if he's thinking that if Bivol coming down is going to give him a slight edge, it could. I mean, if he's thinking about that, but I think just Bivol can be Bivol anywhere he goes. The style, the matches. I mean, you can be a great fighter. I mean, look at Chocolatito. Chocolatito. I mean, is a great fighter and still comes out there and performs better in every fight. But there's a boogeyman for him. Franz, he can't really get close to him. It's just the style of the boxer, and I feel that the same with Bivol. If you ask me, I'll leave that beef around. Don't settle it. Just forget about
like
that.
I said, beef,
Canelo.
Leave that beef, huh?
Do you think they'll do it at 168, Manny?
I think it's 160. I think you're going to invite him down here. I think he's going to be more attractive. Come down to my backyard, and I'm comfortable. The reason why Canelo stayed at 160 is because that's his weight. He feels comfortable. A lot of people say, "Oh, that's weak in the division." Whatever you want to say about it, there were 3 champions that they were undefeated, and he beat them all. Right? He feels comfortable. Right? Let's not get into that rabbit hole yet. But
that Callum Smith,
you're going to bring him into my backyard. I have the undisputed status, and you're going to get paid a lot more money. Anyone that fights Canelo, minimum $4 million. Right? He already fought Canelo, and he beat him. He's going to make a lot of freaking money. I'm going to do anything possible, do whatever he wants. I'll do it. And then on top of that, if I beat him again, undisputed status. So, yeah. So, sadly enough, because now you have Beterbiev, who you can potentially make a huge fight against Bivol, and then all of a sudden it might put into a stop. Because right now, what really matters for Bivol? El cash.
They're going to and if you're in Bivol's camp and you're the part of the management team, you got a victory. So you're going to obviously you're not going to have leverage, but you're going to have you're going to be rewarded a little bit more the second time around than you were the first time around because you won.
They need to fight in Saudi Arabia.
Why not?
That's what they need to do. They need to fight in Saudi Arabia and not bring up that it's in Saudi Arabia and completely just not even talk about the fact that it's there and there's Saudi Arabia commercials and all this stuff. We need to pretend it's just a normal boxing event. And anyone that brings up that it's in Saudi Arabia, they're just awful and they're a sport killer. That's what needs to happen.
Okay. Yeah. So one last comment on this Anthony Yarde, Artur Beterbiev fight. And I'm just going to say this. And again, my apologies to the Anthony Yarde fans, but if there was a fighter that could be tailor-made perfectly for Artur Beterbiev, it would be Anthony Yarde. Like Lukey said, not the fastest guy in the world, tends to telegraph everything, not a big volume guy either. One punch at a time, loads up, this guy's gonna, he's gonna be there for the taking, in my opinion.
Anyone that does film study, when they look at this is a mismatch. Yarde has to land something lucky or have the best fight like he's never looked before. Because looking at film study, I can't think of one thing he does better than Beterbiev.
Nothing. Shout out to D-Style Boxing on administrative leave. Thank you for the $10 super chat, brother.
Leave. I love that.
Taking a sabbatical.
Yeah, he's taking a sabbatical.
But you said something very interesting, Lukey, is that the only way that Yarde can beat him is with any kind of injury. But he's had him before. I think if he breaks his hand, he's still gonna beat him.
Well, that's how. The annoying thing about Artur Beterbiev is it seems like when he gets hurt, he takes forever to come back because he needs to be perfect to come back. Yeah. So it's like he fights once a year because he averages one injury a year. So whenever he comes to the ring, I'm never really worried about what it is because it seems like he's always like, you know what I mean? Like he doesn't deviate, where I feel like the guys that have those fluctuations are the guys that are, let me fight 4 times in 1 year. Even if I'm hurt, I'm going to give the fans a show. Beterbiev, what is he? 12-year pro, 10-year pro, 18 fights. I mean, we're very slow path.
But that cut from Marcus Brownie, that
Plus,
was
it's like almost 40
I thought
now,
they were going
right?
to stop that too, you know.
Like 30.
And he fought
38.
like that. Yeah.
And
And he
It was
ended up
his
fighting.
birthday this weekend. Happy birthday, Artur. You get to beat
39?
someone up for your birthday.
38, right? He's 38 now, Lukey?
38.
38.
Yeah.
And I think
That
the
is a
rumor
great
is
point,
multiple
though, to
millions
take
for this
time
fight.
off.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he's gonna get paid.
Yeah, it's gonna be
as
it's
a,
gonna be
as
a good
a
payday.
unified champion. But yeah, at least what we can say is that at least there are some potential for fights up there. I mentioned earlier Callum Smith. He just happened to move up there, but he's very impressive. Can he be that guy to be added into the mix?
WBC says he is.
Yeah, they made him silver interim or whatever they call the secondary
Number
thing.
one contender.
Number one contender.
Yeah, it's
So I
crazy.
mean,
It's crazy.
who knows if Beterbiev goes home early this Saturday, and there's going to be a Bivol and Canelo rematch coming afterwards. That will be a pretty good potential fight for.
Be great on the undercard.
Yep.
Yeah. It would.
Yeah. So you're right. I mean, obviously, not that you know that, but 38 years old, 18 fights.
He's really moving it up. And what's crazy is like his 4th fight was he knocked out Tavares Cloud, who was a world champion. So it's like, whoa, this guy's going to hit the ground moving. And it's like, he really didn't move fast, even though he had very early in his career, he got big wins.
Yeah. I think he didn't have a promoter early on either, too. So he probably needed to get those connections going for himself, too.
Plus, to your point, scoring that early win, and you guys obviously know how the game goes. If you're not with the big promoter now, everyone's like, well, why would I fight a guy who could potentially beat me and I'm not going to get a whole lot of money out of it, right? So it's like,
true. That's true.
Now he's in no man's land. But I mean, still, though, that's crazy to fight 18 fights and almost be 40. That's nuts.
I mean,
2014, he fought the most.
Yeah, I mean, it's like basically 10 years ago. And then like you look at guys right now, like Christian Mumbili, or there's guys like out there, like that's a good fighter. I don't know if anyone would compare him to Beterbiev, but it's like there's always guys for him to fight. And what's crazy is like Beterbiev never even fought like the Vaughn Alexanders of the world that'll just kind of take a fight on a quick notice. Like he has for his whole career, probably his most active year was like 3 fights in a year. And it's like mind-boggling that this is a guy that just does not fight that often. Like a long time ago.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. Well,
so what do you guys thought real quickly, because this name comes into my mind and a lot. And I got friends who are consistent, asking me about what do you think? I think they saw him fighting. What was it last year? Was it May last year? Joshua Buatsi.
I love Joshua Buatsi.
Any chances up there? 175, still young enough. Undefeated. He's very impressive. Last fight against Craig Richards. UD, that was a very good fight last year. Yeah. And so he's getting be known up there. He hasn't fought I think B- class fighters, now start to fight B+, maybe A-. I mean, who else can be there in a 175?
He may be the next guy for Beterbiev. I know he was mentioned for Bivol, but if Bivol takes here's the thing. If you're Buatsi, maybe you take an interim fight and you wait for the Bivol Canelo rematch, and then you probably fight Bivol. Because if I'm Buatsi and if I'm handling Buatsi, I'd rather fight Bivol than fight Beterbiev. Yeah, I think Buatsi is a lot better than Yarde, believe it or not. I think he's more talented. Absolutely. Yeah, I like how Virgil Hunter added a new wrinkle to him. He showed a really, really good inside game against Craig Richards, and Craig Richards is the guy that likes the range and the distance. And he was able to get on the inside and shorten up those shots and make himself a compact target and position his body. He was doing some of those Andre Ward type things in there, and you could see the influence of Virgil Hunter on Buatsi. And big compliment from Virgil Hunter is he outside of Andre Ward, he says that Buatsi is his best student. So there seems to be a nice marriage there going on between fighter and trainer.
Virgil has made a few bold statements in the past, so
yeah. No, but here's the thing.
Virgil.
Here's the thing, man.
Like, he's right here.
I mean, I've seen, like, I've been watching Buatsi, and he's been getting better. Like, you can you could see that there is kind of, I don't like to always put too much stock in the trainers, because I think trainers get too much credit when the guy loses and too much credit when the guy wins. But
quarterbacks in football, it's the same thing as a quarterback.
But in this instance, you can see the influence is positive, in my opinion, anyways. So.
Yeah, I think right now we can't just think about that he can beat all these guys and be the king. I think he eventually will pick up the scraps from everyone else, and I think Beterbiev is done. But a pretty nice fight, to be honest. If you ask me, for him, it'll be Meng Fanglong. That'll be really good. He just actually came a loss from Pascal. Actually, that same night, May 20 last year. Yeah. So. I mean, for him, it's good. I just want to keep following. I like him. I like the guy. I really think that he's got great potential, and I think if he keeps working in his craft and his boxing skills, I think he's gonna be great at 175. So
yeah, I like him.
I mean,
I like him a lot.
Here's the only thing: Buatsi, really good amateur, and he hasn't quite taken that step up as a pro. And he's taken that really long. What was he? 2016 Olympian, 2023. So that's 7 years. Really good coach. I think we've hit it on the head. They're waiting for these guys to move out of the division, and that's his era, is when they leave.
Yep. Makes sense. Definitely makes sense. So Adrien Broner has a third opponent lined up right now, and this is getting crazy.
The moment I've been waiting for.
Michael Williams Jr. is stepping up to the plate. I don't know too much about him. I don't know. Luke, do you know anything? Do you know anything about him?
He fought John Bauza, his father, Michael Williams Sr. Well, I'll let you finish your lead.
Okay. I'll pass it right to you after I finish. So, yeah, this is the third guy in line. And it seems like they're going out of their way to just find someone for Adrien Broner to beat. But here's the thing, man. Adrien Broner has been off for a while. His head's all over the place usually. He's very complacent sometimes, doesn't always seem to be disciplined. He hit that Miami podcast circuit. He's been going around. He looks kind of portly a little bit. I don't know, man. Will he get up for this guy? I mean, this is the third opponent change. After a while, like, you got to say to yourself, like, what's going on here? Can he get up for this guy?
Beeb, can I ask you a question? The whole panel. How much different do you think this kid is than Giovanni Santiago, who now is fighting Mario Barrios on Showtime? But Broner seemingly hand-selected an opponent in Giovanni Santiago on Showtime to beat, and basically lost a split decision that he won on the cards.
Yeah.
In most people's eyes, do people look at this guy as a level below that fighter?
See, I don't know. I don't know too much about him. That's why I'm deferring to you, because I know you tend to know these guys, a lot of these guys that I don't. So that's
okay. Well, I'll just shoot you. I'm gonna shoot you straight. I'm gonna pull the hoodie down. That's how serious this is. So Michael Williams Jr. works with Roy Jones Jr., as you guys know from Chris Eubank Jr. fame. You just saw him on your TV. He has a father, and you would never guess what his father's name. It's Michael Williams Sr. You never could have guessed that. And they have shirts that say boxing and guns. So they have like a hybrid of boxing and like a gun business. And if you go to their YouTube channel, it's like boxing training. And then it'll be like Roy Jones and their family shooting off like semi-automatic weapons in Florida. So that's one thing. He's been like brought up on these club circuits, just out athleticing guys. Like, his fundamentals are very all over the place. He has a lot of technical flaws. He's long. He's 23 years old, but he's just been kind of hand selected to build a record of 23-1. Steps up in competition, fights John Bauza, a guy that on paper doesn't hit hard, but everyone that spars Bauza says the guy hits super hard. Bauza drops him like 3 or 4 times, makes the kid look foolish on a top ranked card, stops him in like 3 or 4 rounds. I think a lot of people thought Michael Williams Jr. was signed to Top Rank. Brad Goodman and Bruce Trampler brought Williams Jr. in as an opponent to face Bauza, and Bauza just ran through him, like outclassed him, stops him in 4 rounds. To me, like, Williams Jr. has abilities, but this is like a very raw fighter. Like I'd make a comparison to someone I watched on Pro Box last night, but no one watched it probably, would be like Oscar Alvarez, a kid who's got a long frame, but doesn't like the thing with Williams Jr. is he doesn't have the snap on his jab. So you got this big, long kid with athleticism that doesn't always have a snappy jab. That's kind of all over the place. He's learning his identity as a fighter, and he's stepping in there with Broner. I mean, to me, to make a long story short or a short story long, is this tells me a lot about the confidence in Broner. If you're finding a 23-year-old fighter who has some glaring weaknesses, but some potential, and beyond that, Roy Jones Jr. is probably going to work the corner. So this tells me that fight week, the selling point will be, this is Adrien Broner's Rocky moment, his comeback story. Look, will he do it? And Roy Jones Jr., one of the greatest fighters of his era, is training this young kid, and Roy's going to do most of the trash talking. That's as much as I know about Michael Williams Jr.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it was
doesn't have too much of a shot then.
I mean,
Who knows?
we don't know because
we don't
Broner,
know.
We don't
like,
know.
I don't think Broner's anywhere. Like, I thought Hank Lundy and Broner was a 50-50 fight.
Jesus.
Oh, yeah. I just don't think Broner has anything. I mean, I don't know how committed he is, and I know he's been a victim of issues around surrounding him, and all this hype he had in the past. But trying to shadow himself as Floyd Mayweather and being billions and making money. But I think right now, I did see that fight. It was he against Williams. Yeah, he got knocked down in the first, second, third, and then 4 times in the 4th round. So if you're trying to look at how William could perform or how he does perform, that's not the best fight to see it. And yeah, Bausa, he's got a pop. He's got some pop, and he's working on it a lot. So I'm hoping right now Bausa comes back again. I think it's next.
It's on the
February 4th,
the 4th card
He fights
with
Richardson
Hitchens.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're gonna try to look at some of his fights, I think there was a reason why he's undefeated, but his career has been kind of built a little bit back and forth, and making things easier for him. This is a gatekeeper status for Adrien Broner. I don't see him as a comeback for him. He's a comeback, but he's the gatekeeper right now. And I just don't think he's going to move up from that status, if you ask me. And I just don't know if he can keep up with him. Broner starts getting a little bit sloppy, after 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds. So being inactive that long, and I don't know. I really don't know. So, but I do give William a chance. I do give him a chance.
I just want to interject this too, as I'm looking at footage to give you guys the best analysis, because I take it serious when I come on Beeb's show. Beeb's a longtime boxing friend. He's fighting mostly in high school gymnasiums, bro. I'm not even talking crap. Do you guys want me to put a link in the chat? No, I'm gonna put a link in the chat. I'm gonna shut my yapper in a second. Click the link. He's literally fighting in a high school gymnasium. So I'm not talking bad. This is facts only.
You're talking about Broner?
No, the Michael Williams Jr.
Okay.
So this is just facts only. He's fighting a guy that a few years ago was fighting in high school gymnasiums.
So why don't we do this, Scott? Why don't we do this? We'll just take the over.
Take the over.
Oh yeah,
We'll take the over. We'll take Broner would probably win by split decision, right?
Majority
decision.
Everything that I know about Michael Williams Jr., I learned in the last 7 minutes from Lukey's scouting report. He sounds like a mix of Kimbo Slice and John Wick. So I think Broner will win the fight, and then he's going to shoot Broner in the parking lot after the fight. So this may be one of those events. First of all, not even to go on a whole long thing about Broner, but back in my previous life when I wasn't a casual fan, I was never high on Broner for 3 reasons. First of all, short guys with wide shoulders always scare me, right? And maybe it's because I grew up such a huge Hearns fan, but it's like you could see as he got older and slowed down and filled out, he could fight at his natural weight. Broner was built almost like a fullback, right? Right, yeah. So you knew as he moved up in weight, he wasn't knocking guys out when he was the obvious bigger guy. So I'm like, oh, when he fights someone his real size, he's gonna be in trouble, right?
Yeah.
Second of all, he boxed because he can make money. He didn't love the sport, right? And as you guys know all too well, if there's a sport where you literally don't have any teammates to bail you out. Like, this is it, man. It's the fight game.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, like, I mean, literally in basketball, you can go from rookie to role player to star, and then you can just kind of steal money as you get worse and worse and you're older, right? You just shoot less. You don't guard the leading scorer anymore. Dude, when you're done in boxing, you're just done. And, like, to me, financially, again, I don't want to make any bold statements that I have no idea, but I think it's safe to assume that he's probably not made the best decisions financially. So then you have to question yourself, why is he still fighting in the first place, right? And I think that's going to lead to him fighting fights like this and then getting a false sense. And of course he can talk and, you know, he'll create interest and he's going to mess around and fight someone on the way up. And hopefully it doesn't happen, but he's probably going to get like brutally knocked out. And I mean, unfortunately, that's how his story ends, right? Is that, you know, basically he'll get paid off his mouth.
Well, to your point, and you said it right there, you know, he's just lucky that BLK is just throwing money out the window. And he happens to be there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Honestly, why would you pay someone? I mean,
name.
I can see Crawford. They're paying money to Crawford. But Broner?
But he's a name, right? He's a name. And if you know one thing about him, he's going to promote the fight. He's going to promote it better than he actually fights, right? I mean, because he's going to get in there and throw 15 punches around, right?
We need Blair versus Broner. That's the fight that gets the guy that gets beat up by Crawford. Like, you have them, and then that's the boss battle. In the private chat, I put the fight video of Michael Williams.
I'm going to take a look at it. Mario Munguia, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on? Mario. So how much money are you going to put on Michael Williams Jr., Mario?
Beeb, super fast. Apologize to interrupt. I just hit on the link. Lukey, I get it now. This guy fights so that Roy can rap, right? It's like it's an excuse. They're really in a high school gym. Like you can see like a basket in the back. Okay.
I'm not even being mean. Like
you got cheerleaders coming out the tunnel.
I think that was enough. I think 5 seconds was enough. He looks the most superior guy. You look at him, and you're like, whoa, that's a pro.
Mario, you ready to go? You're on mute. You ready to go?
You're muted, Mario.
Mario, you muted.
There we go. My bad. Yeah, I'm ready to go. Yeah, what's up, Scott?
How much,
Lukey,
Manny?
How y'all doing?
How much money are you putting on Michael Williams Jr., Mario?
Oh, man, I'm saving it all for Tony Harrison. What are you talking about? I'm saving it all to blow the bag on him. What they thought he was coming off the couch, bro. He was training for like 3 months. They had a fight. They were doing him like they did Omar Figueroa.
So what's up with Adrien Broner, man? Can this be like a banana peel for him? This is the third opponent. Do you think this is going to kind of mess with his head a little bit, having to keep getting new guys in there? They're going out of their way to find like the easiest fight for him to win. Seems like.
Yeah, this is bad. This is bad for a lot of reasons. Like, we were on the show together. I remember when the whole Adrien Broner thing, you know, with him using mental health as an excuse. I mean, and that's how it was framed. I'm not saying that. And it was a hot button topic because it was like, well, you know, this could lead to people using it as a means to like escaping fights, right? And it never should have been looked at like that. And you saw what Tank went through, and people jumped to conclusions. And you're seeing what Jermell Charlo is going through, or you know, that's all speculation. But you know, all these things are important. But then you look at where Broner went from there to now, and it's just like. None of that helped his case. And I'm not trying to rehash that as an issue. The only point I'm making is that none of this makes any sense. Like, what does this do for anybody, really? Like, you're going to throw this bag at him, but ultimately, like, what does it lead to? Like, what are you doing this for other than trying to get paid? And that's what he wants. We know that. You know, that's why you call out Mayweather every chance you get. You know, that's why you want exhibition fights. Those are all the reasons. But this is an opponent. I mean, this is bad. This is a guy that was fighting on, you know, bubble fights like a year ago. And this isn't any hate towards him. This is more like, this is directionless promotion. You have zero plans of building any stars. You're trying to do a cash grab. And so it goes back to, well, what happened to Omar? Y'all set him up to fight Lipinets in a situation where, you know, the promotion was going to blow up. And so like all of this seems like residual, but look at this one thing that he did and the, you know, people that he hurt that sprang off of it. And so, you know, these are the situations that's just like terrible for boxing, and it adds to the pay-per-view list.
It's almost like this is charity, Mario, no?
I wouldn't call it charity because ultimately, look, this guy is paid the price to be Adrien Broner. Like,
Okay.
nobody
All right.
out there can say that being Adrien Broner hasn't been one of the hardest jobs in boxing. And I'm not trying to take responsibility from him. A lot of the situations are they involved him making bad decisions, but ultimately, like, you try to grow from these things and you try to be a better person. And I'll be honest, I bought into a lot of those things that Broner was saying coming off of those horrendous moments in his career. And so this build back up that I felt like we were all heading towards, it felt like it could be a redemption story. And we all know, if you've been in boxing long enough, there is nothing boxing fans love more than a redemption story. When we can see that real life Rocky come to play, man, we come to pay. And so I was ready for it, but this isn't it. This isn't it at all.
So Mario, you came on a little bit late.
Yeah, my apologies, guys.
No problem. No problem. I want to hit you with two topics that we already kind of touched upon real quick. And, I'm being a little bit, trying not to be hard on Anthony Yarde, but I think this is a mismatch. What do you think of this fight with Beterbiev coming up this Saturday? Is there any hope at all for Anthony Yarde? Could this fight even be remotely competitive, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think it absolutely can be competitive for the fact that when you get to a certain weight, power counts in a way that it doesn't. Like, when you get to the lower weight classes, and that's why the lower weight classes are always pound for pound type guys, because you have to have an immense amount of skill when the power is lacking. At this stage, now, if you want to frame the question like, has Beterbiev shown that he is leaps and bounds above Yarde? Yeah, we could make that argument. We could say that there is one fighter that seems to be on that pound for pound trajectory and another who, couldn't get the job done in the division. But I like to look at it in the sense of how these styles match. Do I think Yarde has a chance? Do I think Beterbiev wins? Yes. Okay, I'll answer that. But in terms of percentage and in terms of what this fight looks like to me, no, I don't see this monster heading into a fight like the way we used to look at Triple G heading into his fights. That's not what this is to me. This is, to me, with the odds stacked as far as they are against Yarde, I might take a gamble. That's not to say that I think Beterbiev wins, but the odds are so inflated, in my opinion.
Okay.
Maybe for good reason, maybe not, but it'd be a shot I'd take.
So you see something that I don't. That's okay. I saw something in Fury that no one saw. Remember that years ago?
Yeah, you did. 100%.
Remember that years ago?
I got shit for it every day.
Either.
To this day, I'm going to keep bringing that up. I'm going to keep bringing that Fury up because that's like my claim to fame.
There you go.
Another quick question for you. After this huge victory for Liam Smith this past Saturday, do you think that the immediate rematch will happen next? Do you think it should happen next? And if that doesn't happen, do you think a good fight for Liam Smith would be maybe like a money fight like Kell Brook or Conor Benn? Where do you see Liam Smith going after this lottery ticket he just cashed in on Saturday?
Here's the thing. I do think that a rematch would be great for a multitude of reasons. Now, if I'm going to look at it from being like in Eubank's corner, let's just say it like that, I got to build up my confidence. I have to get past Liam Smith. See, there are times when great pros take a loss earlier in their career and they don't redeem it. And a lot of times, it's based on finances and different things. But a lot of times it's that, well, he got me now, but, we're heading in a different direction. You know what I mean? We have plans. Eubank feels like he got exposed to the American audience that I guess watched it. And this is an American audience that wanted him to be exposed. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is an American audience who didn't believe in Kell Brook after he beat Carson. He needed to beat a Sean Porter. This is where Eubank, when he wants to take that next step into international territory, into the American territory, he's got to beat a name, right? But you can't do that unless you know you can beat somebody like that. And for him to come back and try to get that win, that's his best opportunity, because if he goes anywhere above that, he could get exposed in a dangerous way that leaves him vulnerable from a health standpoint. I don't know if Eubank was exposed, but I certainly never thought that he had proven that he was this monster. I didn't expect what happened on Saturday. I'm not going to pretend that I did, but I can tell you that this wasn't a thing where, the best man won, like, he's going to go on. This is a fighter he should have beat. If Eubank was the guy he said he was, this is a guy he should have beat. He's got to get that back.
Yeah, I was shocked. And what do
was
you think of
shocked.
what do you think of the elbow? Did the elbow had anything to do with anything? Or
You know,
what do
I've seen a lot of that, and whether it did or didn't, I just feel like, look, we needed to get more into that fight, right? It was shifting. Like Liam looked good, but then Eubank started to kind of look good, and so it was like momentum was kind of shifting in a little bit of a weird way, and it kind of all kind of came out of nowhere. I just didn't expect it to happen like that. So it's tough. It's a tough thing to say. Regardless, I don't take anything away because it wasn't done with malicious intent. You know, whether you can call it, you know, now like you go to the scorecards or call it a no contest or whatever, I understand. But I'm just saying, like, it wasn't like he cheated to win. You know, it was something that happened in exchange where he looked great throughout that fight.
Gotcha. So Tszyu is going to be taking on Tony Harrison March 12th. And this is a fight that is kind of a in-between fight for Tszyu until he gets that mandatory shot against Jermell Charlo. But for me, this is anything but, an in-between fight. This is a tough fight. I hold Tony Harrison in high regard. I did think, and I'm in the minority here, I did think that he did beat Jermell Charlo in that first fight. I had him winning that fight 115 to 113. A lot of people didn't give him a lot of credit for his performance. I thought he won, and I think he's a hell of a fighter. This, to me, could be a possible banana peel for Tszyu, and I'm not sure if I'm the mandatory challenger for a title, if I'm going to want to fight a fight like this while I'm waiting for that fight. Lukey, what are your thoughts on this matchup? Because I think Tony Harrison is very live here, in my opinion.
I love the mentality from Tszyu. The mentality of I was going in to fight Jermell Charlo, so let me take on the next best challenger, as opposed to like in this era, it's like, how can I wait around for 2 to 3 years and get the highest paying fight? I'm like you, Beeb. I had him beating Charlo in the first fight. To me, I think we discount some of Tszyu's wins. He's beaten very good guys in Dennis Hogan and Jeff Horn. People might chuckle and say, oh, those aren't the best guys, but they got solid wins, man. Dennis Hogan, he should have beat Munguia. And yeah, Goucher, another Olympian. You know, he has good wins. To me, this fight comes down to one thing and one thing only if you're betting on Harrison. Harrison, when he loses mental focus. He always beats himself. It's like he's the guy I always alliterate back to my friend Chris Lightning Lopez in Oakland. He'd always compare it to jumping rope for 14 minutes, and on the 15th minute, the rope hits your foot. Like, you can't do it for 15 minutes straight. And it's like Tony, sometimes when he fought Jarrett Hurd, sure, he tired out, but it was a little mental fatigue. When he gets got by Charlo, it's mental fatigue. So in this fight, this is a moment where he can't have that issue because he has the skill set to beat Tszyu, but he has to execute. And I know Tszyu is going to execute because he's one of those guys where he kind of fights the same every time.
Gotcha. Mario, Tony Harrison, is he alive?
Yeah, he's definitely alive. Look, this is a guy who is he coming off the Sergio Garcia win, right?
The Goucher win? Yeah, he's coming off the Goucher.
Oh, he is coming off the Sergio win. Yes,
Sergio, okay. Yeah, he's coming off the Sergio win.
Sergio Garcia win.
I thought you were talking about Tszyu. Yeah,
no,
Tony Harrison coming over there.
Yeah. And so, look, I know you can look at that win and judge it based on what it looks like on paper, but this is a guy fighting international competition, a guy who was banging around the welterweight division for a while. And I'm not saying people were avoiding him, but, he just wasn't getting the fights when he was ranked, fairly high in some of the alphabet organizations. You have a guy in Tony Harrison who's upset the apple cart before. This is a veteran fighter. When you go and look at some of those losses, Willie Monroe, that was like probably closest to the best version we ever saw of Willie Monroe at that time. These losses happened at times to fighters who, Jarrett Hurd, like these guys were at the pinnacle of what we thought or, what they were going to become. And so those are tough losses. Those are hard losses to hang on a guy's resume. And by no means are Willie Monroe, and Jarrett Hurd, two guys that, those are guys that deserve credit. Those are guys that deserve respect. Those are guys that I cannot right now for a certainty say that Tszyu would beat for sure. Now, yes, I would probably have him favorited, but I'm just saying that those are credible wins. Heading into a fight with a guy like Tim, I think you put it best, Beeb. This could be that thorn. This could be, that little pebble under the mattress that, exposes him in a way that we haven't seen thus far. But Tony's got power. Tony's got a lot of craft. Tony's got a lot of things that check the box when you think about a fighter who can upset an apple cart.
Is this the right fight at the right time, Manny, would you say, for Tim Tszyu while he's waiting for a title shot?
Yeah, I think so. I think he was ready for Charlo. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen at this time. But I love the way Luki said it. If you want to be the best guy, you got to be the best guy, right? And you're not just going to come out here at the last minute and go get yourself an opponent that you clearly think you're going to outrun him. Give the public what they want. And I think Tony Harrison has an opportunity to redeem himself from his past experiences and them being able to, stop that run that Tszyu's got to be able to finally get, Charlo in the middle. Because if he loses, that's it. There's no Charlo.
That's what I'm saying.
There's no Charlo. So you're taking a big risk. But
Yeah.
I like that because Tim Tszyu's career has been overshadowed by the fact that he's never fought anyone. I don't have to explain it. Look, he did it himself. There are some opponents out there that he did take. He learned from it, and he's just gotten better and better and better. Man, consistency. You took the words out of my mouth. Tony Harrison, another thing. Man, mentally, I feel like Tony Harrison is the Anthony Joshua. Mentally, he's gone. He's just I don't want to get hit. I don't know what's going to happen. He just doesn't, everything he applies in the gym and in the camp, when he gets out there, it's just completely out. And it seems to happen around the 6th, the 7th, 8th, 9th round. So is that something that Tony Harrison needs to really overcome? Or what is it that triggers him for him to, is that the moment, like, for instance, runners have a period of time when you have so much stamina, but all of a sudden you kind of retract again because you can't get to that momentum. And then you go to the 10th mile and you're like running like it was the start of the race. Is that Tony Harrison in boxing, in where 6, 7, 8, 9 round, he just can't compose himself and he just either gets beat brutally or he's just very closely down the finish line? And I got to tell you, man, youth, this is why I'm rooting for Tim Tszyu. I think youth, I think consistency, and I think the fact that you want to really prove yourself to the world, he doesn't have to, that I do belong with the Charlos of the world, like the best Charlo, all right, like the undisputed one. He needs to take care of business right now.
Got you. Good take, Manny. Scott, what do you think, man? Good fight?
Yeah, very good fight. I'm admittedly biased. I root for all Detroit fighters unabashedly. Like I said, man, I grew up on Hitman, James Toney, even though he's technically from Ann Arbor, but I mean, that's close enough. It's funny because I feel like as fans, well, I mean, I shouldn't say Twitter because that's a wild place anyway. But fans are weird because it's like they always want fighters to challenge themselves. And then when they do, they're like, oh, that's so stupid. Why would he do that? Like, to me, this should be commended. I mean, this is why we all watch fights as a kid. Back when I didn't know anything about a fighter and like, you're like, oh, who's fighting? And this guy's a champ or he's ranked number 1 or number 2. And he sat on and watched, you're like, holy shit, this is a great fight, right? Like, I didn't care who was the A side, who was the B side. You know what I mean? I mean, literally, I started watching fights because the fights were dope and the best fighters were fighting each other and guys challenged themselves. Sometimes it wasn't always smart. And like, we also didn't care how many losses you had, right? I mean, like, I feel like that wasn't always the number one thing, And as far as Harrison, man, it is funny because I follow him on Instagram. He's always training people in the gym wearing like Timbos and shit, which is just funny as hell to watch a fighter.
Always got them Timbs on. Always.
Now, again, Detroiters, do we rock Timbs? Yes, but not like we're from Brooklyn. And I'm like, dude, you're a fighter though. Like, think of how important your feet are to your profession and your livelihood. Why are you wearing Timbs in the gym, my guy? Like, unless he's got on 3 pairs of socks. But both you guys, Manny and Luki, brought up a great point. I don't know if it's more mental or physical.
About to say,
but I think it's physical because I've played with dudes who, once they got tired, they would then mentally check out of the game, right? Just like they didn't know how to push through the fatigue. And so this goes back to, again, like, how hard is his camp? How hard is he training? How focused is he? Is he getting away from Detroit and his family and friends, right? I mean, like, these are things that I don't know. But I would hope for a fight like this, which could set up his quote unquote, last hurrah and his last biggest payday, that he's completely focused, right? Like, away from the family. Because again, like, he does hit a wall. And it's one of those things where it's like, if he can't stun you or hurt you early, it's almost like he mentally caves a little bit, right? Like, did I run? Did I, get up at 5:30 every morning so I can finish this fight? He's the only one that even knows that stuff, right? But like, there is definitely a point in almost all of his fights where you can see him get physically tired, and then he just mentally just was like, dude, I don't know if I can do this. You know what I mean? And like, you're sitting there, like, to your point, like, why would you go through all this stuff and then you're going to gas out with 6 minutes left, But I mean, yeah, man, I'd be a fun
I just
fight.
want to add to that because you reminded me of a fighter I used to think so much of, Antoine Douglas. He used to have these fights and then he'd hit these walls and he could never bounce back. Amir Imam was kind of like that. And I feel like Tony Harrison's like the best version of that fighter, where it's like, they hit those points in fights, and it's like, if they hit that moment, they just never seem to come back from it.
You said Mama's Boy?
No, I said Antoine Douglas. Antoine Douglas, when he lost to Spike O'Sullivan,
good
like,
call.
I thought he was so good. And then it's like that resistance came, and it was like, when you put the pressure on him, it was like something happened to him in his childhood, or there's some deep doubt inside of him. And it's like, he just can't get through it. And it's like that fight lingered with the rest of his career.
Point.
I
super throwback. I was gonna say too. I mean, I was like that. Michael Nunn. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, and it's crazy because, again, I'm not a fighter, so I would never want to call a fighter a front runner because I'm not in their fight. But like, when things were perfect, he literally just looked untouchable. You know what I mean? And like, all it would take is some adversity, and like, he just wasn't the same guy. It's weird.
I want to make one. Oh, go ahead, Beeb.
No, you go ahead, Mark. Go ahead, Mark. You go.
Okay,
go
it's on this point. I just want to make this point to what y'all are saying, because I understand it and I rock with it, and I understand why y'all are saying it. Here's where I'm coming from. I've seen him on IG. I've seen him on social media. He seemed to have been training. He seemed to be getting ready. Like the joke I made earlier, when I came on, it was part joke and it was part truth. He's less than 10 pounds away right now. He showed it on IG and proved it. Like, we're not going to sit here and look at Tony Harrison, and if we're looking at a guy who's coming off the couch, yeah, he's getting mauled. Even if he's levels above a guy like Tszyu, it doesn't matter. He's getting mauled, right? But if this is a guy who's been preparing, if this is a guy who knows this is his final shot to try to do anything worth value, to get his chance back at Mel, which he's always said he wanted, there are reasons for a fighter to get up for a fight. And I feel like this is a perfect storm in which Tony has all of the motivation and he's had the time to work on it. The fact that he's less than 10 pounds out, that shows me we're going to get at least the best version of Tony we could get right now. Does that make sense?
Mario, I want to ask you a question now.
Sure.
I get worried when you say he's 10 pounds from weight. Is he overtraining? Because that almost feels like he might be a little light, because I think Tszyu's about 15 to 20. He's going to be a big man. And what I know about weight cuts are, you don't want to be on weight the week of the fight, because then that's how you weigh in 3 to 5 pounds heavier. And then the other guy's 15, 16 pounds. So I guess my question to you is, do you have a little concern that he's overtrained or maybe too close to weight?
For sure. Listen, the rumors have been that he had been in camp, or not a camp, but like a easy off camp, how they do, leading up to knowing the fight's going to be signed for almost 3 months. Those are the rumors. I don't have them substantiated, but if that's true, then at his age, at, his level of physicality after a career like his, you have to be aware of the fact that you're vulnerable to those types of things, for sure.
Yeah. And just to touch on the whole, fading down the stretch situation, adrenaline's a funny thing, because you see guys in the gym going 15 rounds, just sparring and doing all the training, whatever. But in that ring, when you're made to feel uncomfortable and your adrenaline is heightened and it's just being depleted, I think the big thing too is, I think the pressure, just the physical pressure of the guy keep coming at him, and he's doing whatever he feels he can do, but the guy still comes. In other words, I think he gets a little bit wound up when he's pressured like that. And early on, he feels as though, yeah, the guy's coming at me. I'll slow him down. I'll just keep sticking him. But after a while, when you're sticking him, and he keeps coming at you, that drains you physically and mentally simultaneously. And I just think that that's where we're at with Tony Harrison. I think that he doesn't like that pressure the whole 12 rounds. I think he's looking for that to subside during the fight, and when it doesn't, I think that just kind of depletes him and just he just defeats him mentally. And by that time, he's already exhausted so much energy to try to slow the guy down, and that didn't work. So then it's a combination of both at that particular time, in my opinion. You know what I mean? And Tszyu is that guy that has that steady pace where he's just moderate. Like he's not economical, but he doesn't empty the clip either. He just has that moderate, constant, consistent. I'm going to keep coming at you. I'm going to try to walk you down. You be throwing punches at me. I'm catching everything on the gloves. I'm catching, shooting. You may hit me, but it's hard to hit me clean because I got such a tight defense, tight defensive construct. And I think that may pose a problem for Tony Harrison down the stretch. So
I think that'd be the strategy. I think that'd be the strategy. I mean, you can't deny the fact that he's got the pedigree from the all-time greatest, one of my favorite, boxers, Tszyu, as his father. But it does remind me kind of like someone, even from watching him boxing and nonstop, I just get drained. Antonio Margarito, Tijuana, Texas, Tijuana Tornado. He was a type of guy when he was not cheating, of course, but he would come in forward and he would beat the opposition, and he would just kept coming, and he was getting hit so hard, but he kept on coming. That second fight against Cotto, he just wouldn't stop. Even with Manny Pacquiao before, when he broke the orbital and the eye, it was the same way. He was just kept on coming. You can hit him with a hammer, and he's still coming for you. I mean, eventually you are going to get exhausted. You're going to be drained completely, and you're like, what else I can do to stop this guy? And I think right now the pressure needs to be in Tszyu's corner, that he needs to continue to put more pressure and land as many as combinations, trying to keep him in the distance, but also take some risk and use that counter-punching ability to make sure that you finally drain him out within, after the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th round. That's the biggest opportunity he can have, and he can prove people that he does have skills and he can definitely box. Because remember, Tszyu is starting to grow now, but he's been fighting for quite some time. He hasn't gotten the exposure until now, and now it's about people are starting to say, "Oh, Charlo and Tszyu, who the heck is Tszyu? Oh, he's got Tszyu Soda." Now they're starting to kind of know him, but before that, it was like he was nobody.
Yeah. Hey, how are you a legendary fighter with a cool ass name and your son is Tim?
Well, he's got the middle name. What is it? The middle name's almost the same. What is it? It's Konstantinov.
I rock with Scott saying it's like Tszyu.
My name is Scott.
You're gonna be
I have a boring name too. You know what I mean? Like I was mad at my parents.
Scott. His name Konstantinov Tszyu.
Yeah,
his dad probably said, I was tired of having people butcher my name. Let me get my son.
Yeah, for real.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, dude. But if you're gonna be a fighter with a hard ass name, that automatically makes you better, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
there you go.
That's fine.
Tim.
Yep.
What if you learned that Tim was just like his ring name? It's like he has some crazy first name, but he just goes by Tim the Destroyer.
No, his name is Timothy.
Oh, is it Timothy?
No. Timofey Konstantinov.
Oh, so he's doing us a favor by calling himself Tim. So all right, I get it now. let me help them out and say it's Tim.
I like
call
that
me
better.
Tim.
I like that. But no, hey, just one last thing on that. You guys bring up a great point because it's like, obviously he's watched Harrison as well. So, I mean, if there's ever a time for him to, just not even worry about the first 4 to 5 rounds, fight at a good pace, because I imagine he has to assume Harrison's going to fade. But I mean, we see it all the time when dudes are in a free agent year, they miraculously have their best season ever. I mean, this is Harrison's last best chance to really make a lot of money. I mean, this is his fight to take.
Yeah. He'll hit
Not
the
the
lottery
gatekeeper status, though, not yet. But after
No.
here, if he continues to fight, he'll turn into a gatekeeper.
Yeah, that could happen. That could happen.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we talked about this. I want to say about a month ago about with Anthony Joshua, his next opponent, but it looks like Jermaine Franklin is going to be the guy. They're saying April 1st. And this is the guy who I had drawing with Dillian White, and they talked about Dillian White supposedly being that next guy for Joshua, and then now they wanted an in between fight. But again, did Jermaine Franklin get this assignment because maybe he's not as big a puncher as Dillian White? And do you think that that's kind of playing into the decision making behind this? And could Jermaine Franklin be that stinker again, like he was with Dillian White? What do you think, Mario? How do you think this fight will play out? Do you think this is a good decision to go with Jermaine Franklin here?
Yeah, I do. I do because listen, I don't if the whole narrative was that, AJ's coming back with a vengeance. Get ready. He's destroying everyone in the top 5. Then it's like Jermaine Franklin. Okay, that's like, the wrong vibe. But the fact that for months, he was clearly stating, Eddie Hearn was, that this is the rebuilding period. We are now going to draw up plans. If you're a Marvel fan, they're in phase 3. Like, I don't know what you want. Like, this is what happens in fighters' career. Danny Garcia came off one of the biggest wins of his career, both from a casual perspective and a hardcore perspective. And his next fight was with Rod Salka. Like, this is a thing that happens for fighters when they come back, especially when you come back off a devastating loss. And whether you want to say that Usyk versus AJ2 was devastating or not, what I saw after the fight seemed to have devastating consequences for AJ. Like, his mind, he went on this like weird, crazy rant for a little bit, and you can tell he was like emotionally checked out. And so this rebuilding process is important, and this is the first guy on a list of 3 names that they hope to accomplish this year, and I'm hoping it all leads to Wilder. So if it does, then I don't mind Franklin at the beginning, but if it's Franklin and then it's another guy outside the top 20 and another guy, then no, then it all rides back. But this is the plan. They're on plan, and I'm fine until the plan veers off course.
Base, what's going on, brother? All the way from the UK, Base the Kid. Welcome.
Hey, apologies for the delay, guys. What's happening?
No problem. So we talked about this earlier a couple weeks ago with Jermaine Franklin possibly being the guy, but now that he is the guy, what do you think the thought process was behind this decision now that it's finalized?
I'll tell you what the thought process was. It's the same process as last November when I said that Jermaine Franklin would be AJ's opponent. Video is out there if people want evidence and proof of that. So essentially, if you guys know, obviously, Anthony Yarde is fighting Artur Beterbiev on Saturday. Now, prior to the first Lyndon Arthur fight that he had, Lyndon Arthur fought a guy called Dex Spellman, took him the distance. Anthony Yarde then fought Spellman, I believe it was 2.5 to 3 months after that, and KO'd him. Basically, his line was, you didn't finish your dinner, so I'm going to do it for you. After the Dillian White fight, AJ had an interview where he said, well, if you're supposed to be the best and you're supposed to be like the top guy in the division, these are the kind of guys you're supposed to be taking out. You're not supposed to be going the distance with them. He said that straight after the fight. So immediately I knew that was going to be his route back. Okay, all right, Dillian, because they're now building to this clash between the two of them.
I got you.
I'm gonna deal with your dinner the way you weren't able to. So that's where that part comes. Okay. Dillian obviously then keeps busy, and then they either now have a big fight in the summer, or there is another potential theory that I've heard which makes some sense, but I'll leave that to another side. But yeah, in terms of this fight, I knew it was going to happen, so I didn't have any issue with it. And quite frankly, I don't think anyone else needs to have an issue, especially those who believe that Jermaine Franklin, beat Dillian in the last fight. Not me at all. I don't see it as clear as some other people did, or even as close. I was in attendance, and it definitely didn't look that way. So, yeah, with regards to that, it's a fine opponent for a comeback for me. Anyone who's complaining about it is being hypocritical. Yeah.
They want to know in the chat base if you're going to the Anthony Yarde Beterbiev fight this Saturday.
No, I was debating it, but yeah, no. It's long and short is no. I can't. I don't want to go, but I'm gonna be watching it.
Okay, you weren't here when we talked about it earlier, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Yarde at all, but I don't give him a shot at all. But I do notice a lot of people over in the UK. Obviously, they're going to be rooting for their guy, and they're giving him a legitimate chance. What are your thoughts on the fight, man? Do you think he can pull this one off?
Well, look, one of the best things about the British public is no matter how much of an underdog you might be, they will find something that tells them that you're going to do it and you're going to pull off the upset and win and whatever. Now, I'm very much more measured. I look at everything as a whole. Now, I can't discount this quote unquote puncher's chance, but outside of that, you have to be able to set Artur Beterbiev up for a shot in order to be able to hurt him and land on him. I don't see Yarde, number one, getting the opportunities to do that, and I don't see Beterbiev actually putting himself in positions enough times for Yarde to realize that this is happening and to take advantage of it. I feel like you might get one opportunity, and if you don't take that one opportunity, then that opportunity is not going to present itself again, or you're going to end up catching such a bludgeoning from different angles that you don't even see the opportunity come up again because you're too busy like trying to defend your own position. So to me, I don't find it a close fight. I just don't see the levels in Yarde's previous progression and anyone that he's faced that could give him the type of knowledge that he needs for this bout, because even the Kovalev loss, it's a totally different style matchup. It's not anything that you've experienced before. You haven't been in there with someone with the work rate of a Beterbiev, someone with the boxing brain, IQ, the skills, the power, because you've never actually been in there with a puncher the size of Beterbiev before. So there's just too many negatives against you to look at it and say, okay, this is the chance, this is how you do it. It doesn't compute. That being said, again, the British, sort of that British atmosphere, crazier things have happened. So yes, I'd be totally shocked and probably almost horrified if he was able to pull it off. But I mean, like, stranger things have happened. Sorry to ramble on, my biggest issue with this is that from one perspective, I want him to win because, Londoner, same as myself, and some similarities. But outside of that, it's almost like if you win this fight, then that just tells everyone that it's okay to not do things the right way. It's okay not to take the correct step ups. It's okay not to go, through the levels and build brick by brick by brick. Like, you can fluke your way to the top, or you can soft match your way to the top, which means the fights that we want may not happen because, oh, look, you can still get to where you want to be without having to take them. That's my issue with if he was to win. So from a sporting point of view, I almost don't think he deserves to be able to win, if that makes sense. But
wow, okay. I kind of like how you put that. That's very unique. But it does make sense a little bit. I get where you're coming from. Manny, so what do you think of this matchup for Joshua now that it's set? Do you think this is going to be a good fight?
I'm okay with it. I mean, I think Joshua needs to really, compose himself, and he really needs to have a different mindset going into the ring. And I think Franklin could be that person. Usyk, that's gone. It's not going to happen again. And the Ruiz, that's gone. It's not going to happen again. But a lot of people have told me out here that Anthony Joshua's done. And I talked to a lot of people that say, why he gets paid so much money? He can't do shit, and he can't do that. He just gets beat by people that he's supposed to be. And not really. They're just not watching the other people, how they grow and how they take the opportunity and, they make the best out of it. And that's what Andy Ruiz did. And that's what Usyk did as well. But I think they're forgetting the bigger picture. Is the preparation that they're doing with him, in my opinion, is to get him to that big fight that people really want to see. And I'm not talking about Tyson Fury. I'm talking about Wilder. And so for me, that will be the boom of watching two giants going at it. You know, UK, USA, two big powerhouses. UK is getting really big in boxing, and I think that Anthony Joshua had done a lot to carve the path to make this happen, and I think that the UK fans and also the North American fans are eager to see the biggest monsters of their country going at it. So I have no problem. You are entitled to come back, whether it's with a big major opponent, another title shot contender, or maybe someone that it's not a tune-up fight. If you look at that fight, and I think that Kate just mentioned it perfect. And I remember he was right after the fight in the aftermath. He talked about it, right? That was a very, very close fight, those two. And so don't take him lightly. I mean, this is going to be a great showdown, and it's going to be a great opportunity for us fans to really look at and see is Joshua getting over that hurdle that he fell a couple of times in the past, and this is the perfect opponent. No one else. I don't think he can match no one else to give him the opportunity to continue to show his skills and be able to continue to prove that he still belongs in the top, in the conversation. I would say at the top 4-3 of the heavyweights. It's as simple as that. So I'm good with it.
Absolutely. Lukey, what do you think of this matchup, brother? What are your thoughts on
I like it because I think that Franklin beat White. So I think that this is the right fight that should have happened. And I think that Joshua, for all of his faults, is a stand-up individual in the sense that sometimes he puts his pride on the line as opposed to the logic. And this is kind of a dangerous guy to fight. He could have fought Dillian White, who's much more famous and much more vulnerable. This guy's tougher than Dillian White, in my opinion.
Wow. Okay. Do you think this is a tough fight, Scott, for Anthony Joshua? You think it's a good choice on the comeback trail?
I honestly don't know. Based the kid, you're hardcore casual. I'm casual. But my interest lies in if this leads to the next fight. So I'm hoping Anthony wins. I feel like heavyweights can always get paid just from the fascination of two huge guys, throwing that hard. Pause. But I would love to see him fight Wilder just honestly for the hijinks, knowing one of them is going to get slept. They're both like there's a certain amount of fun in watching flawed guys fight, right? And if they're matched well, they just make entertaining fights. And Wilder obviously has his flaws. Anthony does as well. And there's been so much talk around the fights for years. I would love to see them fight, before they're both in their 40s. So I'm going to watch the fight just to see how he looks. Hopefully he looks fantastic. Like I would love for him to look great mentally and physically, get a big knockout win, like 7th, 8th round, and then right in the ring say that he's going to fight Wilder next, and then they can fight on July 4th. And, just like we once fought for our freedom from the British, then they can fight it that weekend.
Gotcha. So, Base, let me ask you this, because Eddie Hearn had mapped out a plan. He said 3 fights this year, but we think we all kind of know that's not going to happen because this fight's going to be in April. And that only leaves probably one more fight left for the year. Yeah. Do you think Eddie will go with Dillian White, or do you think that they may make the Wilder fight by the end of the year, Base? What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so going back to when I said there was another theory that sort of came out, and I'm going to credit Punch Perfect Boxing for this. So shout out to Jamie if he ever sees this. So he said, if you remember, the IBF were pushing for their mandatory, right, on Usyk, and then they've sort of slowed down on that, and they've admitted that the WBA are next. Well, if AJ beats Franklin, he's still pretty high ranked in the IBF. You've got Hrgovic, who is the number 1, who is the current mandatory. So if the undisputed happens, there is a very big chance. If Fury wins, for instance, he'll vacate the IBF straight away because he doesn't want to pay fees for that. If Usyk wins, he may just vacate all the belts at that point. And if that then happens, you would probably get Hrgovic against Joshua for the IBF title And then after that, you then can parlay that back into the Dillian White rematch with a title on the line, giving Dillian his second crack. So more than likely that Wilder fight wouldn't happen this year. It would end up pushing to 2024. After the Dillian fight. That's how it would probably play out.
Go
What
ahead.
about a scenario? And I don't know if this makes any sense, based with maybe like what about a scenario? Like, do you think that Eddie and AJ would consider a scenario in which Wilder and Ruiz happens, right, with the WBC blessing or whatever the hell you want to call it, and then the Fury Usyk happens, whether he wins or not, he's obviously not going to fight mandatories and gives up a belt, and so then AJ can fight Wilder for a WBC belt at the end of the year? Does that sound like make believe nonsense?
No, it doesn't sound make-believe, but I don't know if from a PowerPoint perspective.
Oh, got you. So they lose the
You let
chips.
AJ be the challenger to Wilder's title.
That makes sense.
Because then that just gives him more chance to be able to talk stupid money, which, he doesn't maybe earn or deserve any time.
Yeah, you ruined my idea. That's cool. No, I'm just kidding.
Sorry
I'm just
about
kidding. No, that makes perfect sense. You're right.
Gotcha. So, Base, I'm just gonna hit you with a couple more because you came on a little bit late, and that was actually the last topic.
Hey, Habib, sorry to interrupt. I gotta head
gotta
out.
go?
As always, man, I appreciate you guys inviting us. Thank you guys
No
so
problem,
much.
man.
I'll see you guys
All right,
again.
man,
Rock
that's
on,
me.
man. Appreciate
All right,
y'all.
Manny. Thank you, brother. Have a good
Joe,
night.
I'm about to follow him out.
Go ahead.
Appreciate y'all, man.
All right,
Peace,
peace
man.
out, everybody.
Scott, see y'all.
Yeah. So before I let you go, because I don't want you to just only have to talk about one topic. Let's talk about this Chris Eubank situation real quick. What do you think is going to happen next? Do you think that they'll do the rematch, or do you think Liam Smith could fight Kell Brook next, or maybe I don't know, at some point Conor Ben's down the road? How do you think this whole thing plays out? Because the world is kind of Liam Smith's oyster right now. He just hit the lottery ticket, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think that in terms of Chris, I think he will activate that rematch. Like his ego and sort of just his natural self, I don't think he's gonna want to leave it on that. If it was just maybe a loss, and you could say, oh, they robbed me, but it's fine, I'll kind of move on, because he was the A side, but he wasn't the house fighter. So Liam Smith was the Sky Sports and Boxer fighter, which meant that they had more upside. And if Chris Eubank loses, then that guarantees them almost another Chris Eubank fight. So the way how he lost, I think he's gonna want to run it back just to say, no, this can't be truly, how I finish things. Like my chin is still, it can't be that bad, sort of thing. So I do think in the summer they probably will run that back. But if it doesn't happen, Liam Smith won't fight Kell Brook, because I think after the fight, Kell Brook basically said he wanted the winner, but realistically he wanted Eubank. I think he wanted a Eubank fight. That obviously makes him a lot more money in the UK. Smith not as much. I don't know if they could justifiably have that as a pay-per-view over here, because Liam Smith is still not necessarily a pay-per-view fighter even after this win. But it would do good numbers just in the north of England, because they're both quite close to each other in that sense. But yeah, Liam Smith, he's got options. That's the good thing. He's either got a big, massive payday coming in a rematch, or he can go back to 154 and definitely fight for a title again if he really wants. Now he'll be put into a super position to do that. He could stay at 160 and maybe just sort of apply his trade there, because obviously coming at 34, 154, maybe it doesn't need to be making that weight anymore. He might have seen that fight and realized, oh, you know what, maybe I don't need to be boiling down to this weight at this age. This still feels like a good one. I can hang up here, let me maybe do that. But yeah, that's it. The options aren't plentiful, but they're not bad either, in my opinion.
Got you. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on, Base. Thank you, Mario. Thank you, everyone in the chat. And we'll catch you next week, man. Have a good night, everyone. Take care.
Peace.